Ever wondered how to make maximum effect, hassle-free cloaks, banners, head wraps, scarves, pennants, and everything else in between? Well, with a little bit of masking tape, I've got you covered. I'm Peachy, and this is Peachy Tips. Now, a little while back, I was attempting to sculpt some cloaks, and I always found that my way of sculpting was just a bit too thick, and it just didn't look like a cloak. It didn't even look like anything. It looked like someone really badly trying to sculpt a cloak out of green stuff. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I've heard that silver foil is good, but I found a particular material that is super useful and really convenient as well. And that is masking tape. Now, masking tape is very good because it's sticky. So it holds in place while you're manipulating said cloaks or bandages or flags even. But once it's been sprayed and varnished and this, that and the other, the stickiness goes. Now, a lot of people have reached out in the past when I've talked about doing this going, how do you get rid of that stickiness, Peachy? How do you make it really tough and, you know, durable? Well, actually, once you've sprayed the model, once you've applied all your masking tape, then it kind of does all that for you. It's insane. I know it sounds mental because you do have that stickiness underneath, which is ideal, but it can be quite frustrating when you are trying to manipulate it, which you'll see in a few moments time when I show you some of my examples of things I've made. But it's really good for holding in place. Eventually you can add some super glue once you're happy with the position of it. Again, I'll show you that in a moment or two as well. But the material itself has a kind of a Hessian kind of like sackcloth kind of feel to it, which is really, really good. Or not even that, even like material. So it soaks up really well paint. You can paint it by hand. So let's say, as an example I've already got, like this, you'll see this knight circling around now. Now this particular model here has a head wrap, which I've made out of masking tape. And I just wanted to give him more of a desert fashion kind of feel. And that could be something historical like the Crusades, or it could be something made up like Rangers of Shadow Deep or whatever, Frostgrave. And I just wanted to give him a cool, different sort of look to him. Maybe an Eastern look or something like that. And I thought that'd be quite cool. I'll show you on that. But I've obviously got a few examples, but this model was already painted. And the great thing about the masking tape is you can paint over it even after you've applied it on a model that's already painted. Yes, you might have to be a little bit neater, but that's the great thing about it. You can just paint on it. It's perfect. And with the paint being slightly thinned down, soaks up quite well. When it dries, gets nice and hard, which then makes it durable. I would recommend, if you do want like super durable, like cloaks and this and the other, either thinning down some PVA glue or using some form of spray varnish or whatever, that will do the trick as well. But yeah, all said and done, once you have sprayed it or painted it by hand, that tackiness goes, and it's very minimal anyway. So yeah, you've got yourself a nice like head wrap or cloak or banner ready to use in a game. What I would say as well, which I don't cover actually in the guide, but I'm going to mention here, is when you like manipulate your banners and your pennants, sometimes the masking tape does have a way of like folding itself flat out straight again, which is fine between games, and it doesn't crack the paint, which is also good, unlike like maybe silver foil would. But if you want it like flowing in a certain direction, then I would get some PVA glue and apply that over, and that will really harden it in place, so then it keeps that particular flow or whatever going. But what kind of things can you do with masking tape? Well, there's quite a lot, and you'll be surprised. Anything really that's cloth related that you want to add to your model, whether that's a loincloth, a cloak, some form of cape, head wrap, scarf, bandages on arms, maybe even like adding straps onto a model. You can fold it in half to add a bit more thickness to it. I've used it for numerous different things, and even now I'm still like tweaking and trying different things with it as well. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at using masking tape, and there's a few things, some of the early stuff like these two here, these were quite early on. So my Tanith guy, the cloak, was very rudimentary, but it was my sort of, I've got no green stuff, what can I use? And I was going, this has got legs, I can use this for other applications. But the great thing is you can get quite a lot of awesome uses out of just a roll of masking tape, even to the fact you could probably use it as tarpaulin on vehicles as well, or like you can like drape it over a bonnet and like draw a map on it and then paint that and stain it. You know, there's so many applications, and even in this video, I'll make a few little hash ups. There's like a cloak that I'm not happy with, like the initial one I do for the Tanith guy. It could be better, I know that, but the more you do stuff, the better you get at it. And that's the key really is. There is a little bit of patience involved, like just manipulating this bit and manipulating that bit, but that comes with time as well, and you will start to know what works and doesn't. When I first started doing capes, I didn't give myself enough material to wrap around the neck, so it used to be quite stubby, whereas now I've learned that actually if I just give myself a little bit more, I can wrap it around. If there's too much, I can then snip or rip that off. And ripping, that is another important part. Flags, cloaks, even scarves. When you tear the masking tape, instead of doing like a nice straight cut of a knife, it gives you that kind of nice sort of like worn, weathered material kind of look to it. So it does look like it's torn, or it's a cloak that's been draped across the floor numerous times. So that those microfibers that have been teared really does add to that visual look of it being a tatty piece of cloth. But yes, without further ado, let's just dive into me just using masking tape in a different couple of ways. So I'm going to cover cloaks. I'm going to do it on a Necromunda figure or 40k figure. I'm also going to do it on a historical figure, which is a Dark Age guy, which you can count as a Rohan. So actually you can add that Rohan thing I did a little while back in a previous video, which you'll see up here. I can use this to add cloaks to them, or like little pennants on their spears. Then on a couple of models, I will cover things like head wraps, scarves, doing that little bit around that knight's helmet, and then just a little pennant. So if you want to see how that's done, stay tuned. Let's look at using some masking tape to make everything. So the first thing I want to do with the cloak is just to give myself a rough idea of what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to sketch that out. Again, I'm going to make those little bits that go around the neck a little bit longer, and then it's just a matter of getting a nice sharp knife and then just slicing it out. Again, you don't have to be particularly precise, it's just to get the general gist of it, because, well, you'll manipulate it around the model and get folds of cloth, etc. on it. So yeah, just peel it off. Sometimes you've got to be careful because you might end up ripping it. Now this bit does take a little bit of faff. So what you are literally going to be doing is just placing it on, but this is the bit where you then start to manipulate and maneuver around. So you've got a general idea where the cloak's going, and it doesn't like much, but then as you start moving it around, folding like the little bits of cloth around here, around its neck, then you start to get a bit more of a shape going on. It starts to look more like folded cloth. So initial steps, like anything, it's going to look a bit rough, but as you start adding to it and manipulating it, that's when it just starts to look a little bit more real. Again, the back looks awful at the moment because I've not really done anything with it. But yeah, using some tweezers is quite good, especially if you've got fat fingers like me. It just makes it a lot easier. And again, I just keep folding things around. I kind of want it trailing off the side of the armor as well, so you kind of have like it coming down just a little bit on either side. But yeah, just pushing it under the face. Again, depending on what kind of faces they've got, what kind of gear they're wearing, that might change the actual sort of positioning of it as well. And then once you're kind of happy with the front bit, for a moment at least, then you can start actually maneuvering and manipulating that masking tape around the back to get more folds of cloth, or to make it look like it's blowing in the wind or whatever. As you can see, I've already got that tear at the bottom as well, so that makes it look like it's kind of torn heavy cloth, which is really, really good. Certainly for a Tanith guy, this is probably going to be a Vervenhiver as opposed to an original Tanith dude. I mean, it looks like a bit of a thug, bit of a ganger. That's another thing as well. If you use the Hive Scum sets, they're really good for making Tanith because they're quite nondescript looking kind of uniforms, and all you need to do is just add a cloak to them. Also, so it doesn't look too sort of, well, straight and like it's been cut with a knife, I'm just going to push in some of those bits around the back where it's just going to go around that collar. Just push it down, tucks it in. Well, it's just like tucking yourself into your clothes really, isn't it? And then I'm just going to get like a bit of pin or something like that and just dropping a little bit of super glue around some of those areas just so it holds in place. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. But if you don't like it, you can just tear it off and start again. Try not to break his gun like I just did. But there we are. There is our cloak on our member of the Tanith First and Only. It's very rudimentary when it's painted. I'm sure it'll look far sexier. And there we are. There's the painted version. And as always, adding a little bit of paint to a model always makes the difference as well. So you don't obviously see that it's potentially masking tape. It is just a cool looking cloak. Now on this model, this is a slightly smaller scale model. So this is a 28mm Dark Age figure from Victrix. Again, it's the same principles. Just because the model's a bit smaller, I'm using the exact same methods I used on the last one. Scale doesn't really make that much of a difference, but I thought I'd just show it for completion so you can see that, yes, it's a slightly smaller model or whatever. But I thought, you know what, I want to do like some cool warrior, maybe for a Rangers of Shadow Deep game I might end up doing. Maybe it's a goodie, maybe it's a baddie, maybe it's a villager, I don't know. Maybe it's a ranger. But I thought I'll add a cloak. I like the idea of adding a cloak. So that's what I'm doing here. And again, starting off quite straightforward, just getting those little bits that are trailing around to go around the neck so it looks like the robe or the cloak is actually draped around, and then just bending them down and trying to give the impression of actual folds in cloth. And sometimes it's not going to work out and you have to take it off and then redo it, but that's the great thing because it's masking tape, it's sticky. Usually you can just reapply it, and if you've like stuck it on itself, you can just tear it off and make a new one. Sometimes the folds in the cloth can be a bit harder to get or make look convincing, but as time goes on, especially if you study like a little bit of like drapes or cloth and stuff like that, you can get a bit of an idea. I wouldn't say I'm perfect at that, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at that, but I certainly can give myself the general gist of it. Here I'm just using a knife because I needed something a little bit more pointy, because there's a few bits that would annoy me. I just wanted to move them around a little bit. And then it's just back to using tweezers. In fact, maybe there was a little piece of something in there. I was trying to get it. Maybe that's what that was. I can't remember. But yeah. Oh yeah, folding that up. There we go. Folding up on the side. I do apologise if I do drift off camera a little bit here, because it was quite hard to keep in focus. I also wanted it to look like it's draping around his arm. I was like, maybe we'll see what that looks like. So it's just coming to one side. But yeah, it's great. Now, there were a couple of little bits that around the back I weren't happy with. So I just got a thin strip here where I made an error. And again, because it just looks like it's cloth, it's going around, it's going to tie in with the rest around the neck. So all I'm going to do then is any voids or anything that just doesn't look quite right, I can just hide it by applying a little bit more over the top of it. You can even treat it like a scarf as well. You can maybe have a scarf over the top. But yeah, once it's in place, I'm happy enough, I can just rip it off. And then just go around and just tuck those little bits in where needed. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Now, pennants. All I'm going to do here is get myself a strip of masking tape. This is artist tape. And then I'm just going to neatly reattach them together. But I'm going to leave a little void. Don't worry about the end being a little bit sticky there. But I'm going to leave a little void. And the reason for that is I can just slide that over the spear. And then once that's on, I can then just, well, manipulate it all the way up to it. And I've got myself a little bit of a pennant, but I want to make it look a little bit more fancy. So I'm going to do that fishtail kind of effect on it. And I'm just going to cut into it, and then I've got myself a little pennant there, and then I can just bend it. Now, this particular tape does bend, but then it has a habit of going back straight. But once I'm happy with the position, I can then coat it in PVA, and then it just stays in place. But there we are. A cloak and a pennant on a 28mm fig. Nice and simple. Now, head wraps, they're fun. So the idea really is get yourself a bunch of strips. If you have like really thin masking tape, great, just cut yourself a couple of strips. But actually with them being different sizes, that's actually quite good, because it gives a sense of just like rudimentary cloth being wrapped around. So it's not like all equal sizes of thickness. Now I've attached it to the head. Again, it's sticky, which is great. And then the trick here is then to start twisting it as I go around, so it's not just the same sticky bit that's been wrapped around. I'm wrapping it around, twisting it back on itself, getting a little bit of a kink in there. And I do that multiple times, get under the neck. Again, you might need to use your tweezers just to push it if it's not working. Go around the top of the head. Again, that's quite flat. I can push it down with my thumb just so it's not too, well, looks like I've just wrapped a roll around him. And I think that's something you're trying to avoid, is look like some kind of paper crown, or like you stuck a toilet roll on someone's head or something like that. So yeah, doing those little twists really do add a little bit of bulk as well as visual interest to the actual look. So I'll do a little bit across his face, really going in for those Talon or Dengar vibes here right now. And then you can make it as long or as short as you want to. Now I did decide to tear it off here and then add the bit around the front, because I wasn't quite sure if it would work with the collar. So I thought I'd just fudge that and do it that way instead, because it makes it a lot easier. I don't have to worry about it being 100% accurate, but you get the general gist that, yeah, it's wrapped around, it's tucked under his neck, and then it's just coming out the side there. And there we are. There is our Ash Waste Ganger, maybe a Talon Desert Raider, I don't know. But now I've painted him up, he's starting to look a little bit more like Dengar, like the other example I did. Maybe I'm revisiting him. Maybe it's a new faction I'm starting. I don't know, but I thought it looked quite cool. Now, to make my already painted knight look a little bit more deserty, or give him more of an eastern feel to the helmet, all I'm going to do is get a thin strip of masking tape. And then I'm just going to wrap that around, again, very much like the last one. I'm going to twist it as I go round, again, adding bulk and visual interest. I know that's a word I've used a couple of times, but it's true. It can be fiddly, don't get me wrong, especially when you have to go around like an awkward sword like this. That was obviously, sometimes maybe in hindsight I should have done this before I built them and painted them, but it was a decision I decided on after. So, you know, it's like anything, suddenly you're like, oh, I want to add a head wrap to this, that'd be cool. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just twisting it round, and then again, it really helps add to it. But once you get a routine going and you want to do a couple of these, it's becomes second nature. And then what I want to do here is, once I've done that last wrap, I'm going to tear a little bit off. I was going to try and do like a little knot, but I thought actually if I tear it off and then just glue that on again after, like I did with the last head wrap, that would work quite nicely. So you just give it a little twist, and I can just add some super glue in there, and then straightforward job of just reapplying that, but with a little bit of because I rolled the end up a little bit, like a little bit of a ball, so it looks like maybe it's been tied into a knot and then wrapped around. Maybe there should be two bits trailing out, but I'm not bothered. It works for me. But yeah, happy with that. And although this model's not finished, all I need to do really is get the model highlighted, and for the actual masking tape, all I did was add a little wash to it. Just added a little bit of light tone, which is a shade, all over. Didn't even bother repainting it. I thought, I like that white, it looks quite nice, so I'm just gonna give it a bit more of a creamy feel, or a bit of a dirty kind of feel. Just drop a wash on it, nice and simple. My last example is going to be something like a scarf. You could use this for bandages, or like if someone's like got an injured head, so like maybe a head bandage or something like that. But I want to do a scarf. Maybe this is a Retreat from Moscow model. So this model is a French line infantry from the Perry Miniatures range, one of the plastic ones. And all I'm really doing is just wrapping that around the face again, doing the twists again to add bulk and interest, but also to make it feel a bit more scarfy as well. Do apologise for drifting off camera there a little bit as well. So again, I just need to get a couple of twists in there just so I can get round and again make it look a little bit more interesting. So all I'm doing here is just twisting around a little bit more. Again, the tweezers are a godsend because I don't think my fingers could really do a lot of the work because that bayonet's in the way. Again, I could probably build it without the bayonet, do the head separate maybe. But yeah, once I'm happy and I think, you know what, I'm going to leave it at that kind of level. All I need to do now is just tear a bit off, and then that can just be the scarf just drifting away in the wind. Just using a little bit of super glue to hold it in place a little bit, because obviously I want the wind blowing in from the left to the right. But yeah, it's just, once it's held in place and glued down a little bit, it just looks like it's just flowing in the breeze or the wind. Very cold night at the campfire, or standing firm against a Cossacks charging towards him. Whatever it is, I'm happy enough with it. And then the last little bit is just tuck some of that stuff down at the back, because it will look quite flat because you are just wrapping tape around the model. So just tucking in again adds a bit more bulk, looks a bit more like material or cloth. And I guess adds that extra sort of like depth to the figure as well. But there we are. There is our French Fusilier, either retreating from Moscow, or is again just a cold night by the fireplace in a silver bayonet scenario. So there we are. Just by using masking tape, the variety of things I can get from that roll, plus the small little artist's masking tape, that little black roll, that's really good actually for things like Pennants and stuff, because it's the same kind of thickness, which is great. It's good having like multiple actual sizes of masking tape. Certainly the bigger, thicker rolls, like I said, are great for tarpaulin at the start. But yes, as you can see, I mean, I have painted these now. There's no guide on there. I just wanted to quickly paint them for the video so you can see the before and after. Like, this is what it looks like on the model, and then this is what it looks like when they're painted. So I thought it'd be quite a good visual sort of look. Granted, it's, you know, sculpting it by hand with green stuff, and you're very good at it and you know how to use green stuff, you will probably get better effects. But for those of us that don't have that skill and want to get cool, simple loincloths or cloaks or whatever, this is perfect. And like I said, it's super durable, because once it's on and you're happy with it and you sprayed it, it doesn't, I've got so many models that it's not come off. It's not come off. Unless you choose to make it come off and then you rip it off, maybe there'll be a little bit of super glue that you need to clean off here and there. But that's the great thing, is it's masking tape. It can come off if you're not happy, or you've improved your skill and you're like, you know what, that cloak I did a while back, I'm gonna redo it. I'll take it off that guy. I know he's been painted, but I'll just paint it again, because I can lift up the cloth and I can do the underneath and this, that, and the other. And I can just spray it with a varnish or cover it in PVA or whatever. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you found some useful hack or tip or something like that from using masking tape, maybe for your cloaks. Maybe you'll try it. Maybe you never tried it, never thought about it, whatever. Hopefully you'll find the stuff from this useful. It is a shorter video than normal. It's half term. I thought I'd spend a little bit of time with the family as well. So I do apologise if you were expecting a big long waffle from Peach, but I mean, there's only so much you can say about masking tape really. And I've been meaning to do this as a video for a little while. You see the waffling's starting to happen now. It's all starting to happen. But if you have any cool applications of masking tape that you've done yourself, or there's some materials out there you're like, Peachy, have you ever tried this? I'm like, I've not. Thank you for that. I mean, I do use cartridge paper as well for like banners and flags and stuff like that. So that is something to bear in mind. When I did my battle report, I used a lot of cartridge paper to do all the posters and stuff. But masking tape is pretty cool. In fact, I think I did the flags with masking tape in that, the V flags. It is literally, I just sprayed them red, put the tape down onto a spray stick, sprayed it red, drew a little symbol, cut it to size, stuck it on a building. Really quick and simple banners, really. Wasn't a strenuous task at all. But anyway, I've been waffling on. I knew I would. Thank you to my patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you for your support. Hopefully you've found some use from this video, and I'm going to continue doing my waffling because that is what I'm good at. Oh, I am starting to do streaming again, so I thought I'd mention that here. So I'll be doing that on Twitch. I know some people are like, why don't you do it on YouTube? I'm more familiar with Twitch at the moment, and I guess I could do streaming on YouTube, or I've got to do what's comfortable for me to start off with, and I know how Twitch works, so I'm going to do that first, and then once my brain's in gear, then I'll start doing some more stuff on YouTube. What I would like to do is get to a point where I can stream a battle report. Where I do voices, and maybe if there's a way of getting you guys to do voices and jump in, like, oh, Dave 4539, can you just voice that German character for me? I don't know how that works. I don't know if that's possible, but you know, I'll find a way. But yeah, that'll be fun. Live streaming battle reports. I used to do that on Warhammer TV. That was good fun. Then that's left me enough time for all those names to go by now. But I just thought I'd mention that I'm doing streaming. Anyway, love you all. Have a good half term if you have kids. Have a great half term if you don't. Even if you're at work. I hope it's great. But yeah, love you all. Until the next one. See you later. Bye.